I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is all the mods 10 to the sky. Nothing like the fresh smell of another day in the all the mods 10 to the sky world, I tell you what. Last episode, well, we ended up diving a little bit into industrial foregoing, and it is a really good mod for generating blocks, and it also has some incredible functional blocks that you can utilize in your world as well, even allowing you to auto farm and many other things. But as you may have spotted behind me, you can also farm a ton of really nice materials and have them constantly be generated and compacted. And so over here, that's exactly what I have happening. I have cobblestone being constantly produced, and it's not only being constantly produced with only a level 4, by the way, it is producing and compacting and sending all of that up to level 4 of compaction for cobblestone. And then all the way over here, I mean, and I could technically compact it even more by putting it in a compacting drawer, but I decided against that because I just don't think it's going to be super necessary. Now, I'm also generating the silicon, but we use it primarily in block form, so it's also, well, crafting it into the 3x3. And so I need to get this hooked up to my applied energistic system. And now that I have this up and running, we can start working on getting the upgrades for it to make it even faster. But this is going to involve another mod that we really need to get into for many different reasons, not only just this, and that is hostile neural networks. Now, before I dive too deep into today's episode, since we are going to be playing with mob spawners and methods of actually spawning in mobs, I mean, let me know, what is your favorite type of mob spawning method that is in modded Minecraft? I would love to hear from you in the comments. So let's get on with today's video. See, hostile neural networks, while requiring a significant amount of power and also clay, iron, and gold and glass, I mean, so long as you get this up and running, you're going to be producing predictions that allow you to make a lot of odd and end things that are really useful in a Skyblock world. And not only that, we also get regular predictions from the mobs themselves that allow us to produce a ton of different things so long as we have technically killed these mobs in our world a few times. In last episode, we realized that we are going to need totems of undying and also shulker shells. And both of these can be generated from, for example, this one, an evoker prediction, and also just taking out some, shulkers, which is another way we can get a constant supply of shulker shells. Because believe me, shulker farms are quite a hassle to deal with normally. They teleport all over the place. So to be able to make this easier, we can farm it just inside of a single block. And this will then produce the materials that we need. We divide them up with a little bit of logistics, and then we'll have ourselves the product that is derived from our loot fabricator. And so with this thinking in mind, I have divided up some of these sections here, and we have a little bit more space to sort of play with. I've made these platforms here, and I might have an elevator that runs through the middle. I think this would be really cool if we use something like create to handle an elevator down here. And I don't think it would be too hard to get set up. Maybe have a chamber that holds the components for, I don't know, like a water wheel in here to handle the elevator happening. But that's for future Chosen. First thing I want to do if I'm going to be handling all of this stuff is probably get a storage controller set up. That way we can house all of our drawers if we use them throughout here. For example, I decorated these drawers to fit the theme. But if we place a drawer in here, I want to be able to handle and access all of those things from a central point. And that's where the storage controller comes into play. So I can place this down here. I'm probably going to bring it down like a block. So we have a block gap. And then I need to grab our, let's see, functional storage. I need to grab the linking tool. And I shift right click to select, and we can actually see the base range. The base range is not even big enough to encapsulate these. So let's take something like, I don't know, some diamond upgrades, and we can increase this range. And this is going to be necessary, especially if we plan on going up. But once we put these in here, let's go ahead and shift right click, crouch, shift right click. Oh my goodness, is this one of those cases where I have to be on the ground to shift right click? Okay, apparently, if I put the range upgrades in here, this is going to increase our radius by quite a bit. And we can see now it is outside of the range of everything. And this is going to be, yeah, this is already more than enough. But yeah, I just need to add these drawers to the system here. And then I also want to make sure and lock all of these to the thing they are, just in case we accidentally pull all of them out. I don't want the filter to drop and it just start pulling some random stuff. Now, how am I pulling the ingredients out? Well, this allowed me to avoid configuring any of these machines. I didn't have to configure anything at all. I just simply put a puller upgrade in here, and the puller is definitely fast enough to keep up as of right now with this machine, but it may be tougher later on, and we'll have to configure some things potentially. But even if this right here doesn't keep up, we can probably have this auto export, and it might be fast enough to send out on its own, and we still don't have to do any filtering or anything like that. We just tell it, hey, try and send that item into here. But now over here, I'm going to toss on a storage bus. That should be very, very simple. And we'll set this to extract only, because I only want to be able to extract products out of there, not send them back into that system. So now after that, let's see, silicon, we can see it all inside of here. So now we're looking pretty good. We have our blocks generated. We're generating some stuff. I do want to speed them up, but for right now, we need to start thinking about how we're going to get some of the mob drops that are going to be required for this and all of our add-on upgrades as we continue on. So definitely getting shulkers and totems of undying are going to be very important, not only for this setup, but totems of undying are a very powerful thing that could actually help us fight the draconic dragon down the road. And so to get started with hostile neural networks, we need a loot fabricator, we need some simulation chambers, but primarily we need a deep learner, and we're going to also need some data models here to be able to do this. Today's going to be kind of interesting because not only are we going to be experimenting with this mod, I'm even going to be playing around with some spawners just to kind of show you how we can actually duplicate mobs for quick and easy, collection here. So speaking of that, let's pop into the Nether real quick. This really noisy place. And I want to use a cardboard box to just simply collect what's mine, which is going to be this blaze spawner. Now, the next thing I want to do is place this down, but I got to be careful. When I take this off, it's going to be a spawner. So I'm going to hit it with a comparator to shut it down immediately, because we don't want this happening anymore. So now we have this and we can control it with a lever. Now, yes, I still have fire spread on in my world, so I kind of don't want to be spawning blazes in here. So we should probably change up the mob. And if you have swabbed anything, you can actually summon any of these mobs and make a spawn egg for it, assuming that the mob does have a spawn egg. Now, one of those mobs was the evoker that we actually swabbed, and we did this after we summoned in the villager island from Ars Nouveau, and we spawned in a raid. And so I was able to capture this guy. And with this, we can take and combine it with some XP fluid with a bucket, and we just need to find a chicken and just simply take care of the chicken. But thankfully, we can just spawn chickens right on in, right? We actually get eggs inside of here, was specifically chicken eggs. Oh, and by the way, any of these eggs can modify this spawner. So by having this chicken egg and right-clicking it on here, it will change it to a chicken spawner, as you can see. For right now, though, let's go ahead and grab a bucket of XP fluid. We'll take this, and we need to make sure that we select the right one. So this is the Minecraft Evoker one, and we're gonna get ourselves some GM chicken feed, classic here. This is actually a part of mob grinding utils, whereas this is a part of apotheosis. So let's go ahead and spawn a chicken, hit it with this, and we get ourselves an evoker spawn egg, which is pretty nice. Now, the evoker is the one that I actually want to put in here, and I do want to grab another swab, and I want to make sure that I swab this after we spawn at least one of these guys, because we're going to need this. So this might take a moment for it to spawn, but you can see all of the stats here. All of this is modifiable, and we just need to get a set of them to spawn in. Doesn't take all that much time, and if we added all of the things in here to make it faster, it would be almost instantaneous. We'll worry about that here in a second. Right now, I just got to get this guy to spawn. Come on now. It should spawn any moment now. I wish we could actually see a timer. That'd be kind of cool. But I guess it is kind of random, right? It's got a spawn delay between two separate delays to kind of make it a bit more random. Oh, and one thing. A soul lantern is one of the things that I think we need to add to this for mobs that technically have to be dark. So if we put that, there we go. That solves that problem. Okay. And so I just need to swab them again just to make sure I have this. And then I'm going to right click the data model, store that, place the data model in here, and then we should be good to just quite literally start taking them out. So there's that one. And then our data model, you can see it's at 5. I don't know where the other one went. It went somewhere, right? Okay, here it is. Yes, and then now it went down to 4 remaining, and we've just got to take out a few of these guys, all right? So it's not too difficult, right? That's not too bad. If I put this in my offhand too, by the way, it makes it a little easier to be able to see this, but also like firing this isn't that easy to do. Also, how am I dying already in this all the modium gear or vibranium gear even? What? All right, we've got to get this guy. I've just got to get a few more of these and we should be good. So now that I have this up to at least a basic model, I can shut this down. I don't really need this anymore as of right now. However, we still need to get another mob for right now, and that is going to be a shulker. And I still don't know what other mobs we're going to need, but as we need them, we can use this method to get them. Oh, and by the way, one of those mobs dropped a backpack that they were carrying, and look at all the stuff it had on it, including one of the Ars Nouveau spell books, like the special spell books. That's neat. Now this is where we need to go hunting for End Islands, and I'm going to use another dislocator here just to keep in my inventory. It's going to allow me to teleport back home as needed, but I think there's the compass in here that allows us to just simply search for this structure, and we can just search for the end structure and hopefully find it a lot faster. Ah, yes, this right here, the Explorer Compass. It does require cobwebs, which as you can see is one of the recipes that we do get a hold of from hostile neural networks. But yeah, outside of that, I really don't have cobweb just laying around. You know what? Oh well, I'm sure we're gonna find it quickly anyways. Oh, and by the way, I can't believe I waited this long to make this upgrade, but yeah, I mean, a feeding upgrade has been long overdue for me. An advanced feeding upgrade to be exact, probably one of the most powerful combat upgrades that you can make. This thing is ridiculous, and you can set it to only allow certain things, and we can put them in our backpack. So now it's only going to eat all the modium carrots as needed, especially since we have so many of those. It's going to be more than fine. All right, so now we need to find shulkers, and there we go. There's the ender pearls I need to be able to make my way to the islands. Oh wow, and this is where I spawned, right here. Hey, this is perfect actually. So all I've got to do is grab a data model, just like I did with everything else, plop that in here, and we are good to start taking out these guys. Slowly but surely, but I only need to take out a few of them. Also, does this have... This one doesn't even have... Aw, man. I was hoping that this one would have at least an elytra. But there is some basic loot in here. Ooh, dragon scales spawn inside of here. Oh, and we also have different gear with different aspects. Not a whole lot that I really want going on in here, but hey, it's free stuff. Also, I know we just automated this, but look how much of the crying obsidian exists in here. What are all of these are just crying obsidian? That's so, oh my gosh, the glowstone. This terrain gen, it just always blows my mind. It is just ridiculous looking. Ooh, okay, and then over here, perfect. This is exactly some of the other things I need. I mean, I can actually craft a dragon head before acquiring this, but now we have the dragon head, perfect. And then down here, we should also have the elytra. Just get rid of this guy, pop a few of those, and... Oh, we also get a sword in here too. I'm going to leave the sword though. Don't really need things like that. But you know what? As far as the end goes, I think this is more than enough. So all I've got to do is just simply make my way back. And this is where I said the dislocator is so good and it has quite a few uses. So yeah, as an emergency item to get back home, pretty nice. But now that all those shenanigans are out of the way, it's time to dive into something interesting. How about SFM to handle all of the hostile neural networks logistics? And I kind of want to challenge myself with this. So Super Factory Manager is a really, really powerful mod, but it can be kind of confusing because it does look like you're coding, quote unquote. But in reality, you're just going to be following examples. And I think once you understand how this mod functions, you're going to be wanting to use it for quite literally everything. And there's only a few things that you're going to need to get this to work. You're going to need a regular factory manager, and then you're going to need some cables, whether that is the fancy cables or the thick, chunky cables that kind of look like this. These are what's going to allow you to connect to all of your machines. And then you need a label gun to essentially tell your super factory manager here what machine is what, basically assigning variables to things. So if you say this is your loot fabricator, well, you need to load a loot fabricator label into this, and then you need to tell it what that loot fabricator label is actually connected to, which would essentially be this loot fabricator here. And then you would just push it back into the super factory manager, which we're all going to do here in a second. But I did just want to explain this for a brief moment because I know this can be looked at as a really complicated mod. Now, outside of that, we need a factory disk. This is going to hold the program that we technically put into play. So when we put this in, we get a whole lot of options here. You can make this a little easier on yourself if you hit Control O. That way you can see all of them and remove your JEI. But I recommend right from the start just looking at some of these examples because it is pretty interesting. Now, the one example that is really going to fit what we're working on today, as the top inputs and bottom as an output actually matter, we need to take a look at how a furnace would technically be automated here. And this is very, very simple, and only one cable is going to be connected to this machine, but it allows you to control where everything is sent to that machine, even if it's connected to any side of that block. Now, before I even start setting up the program, because I know that it's going to be able to do this, I kind of need to define how we're going to do this. So just to kind of get started, because it's really easy to copy and paste once we have this actually done for the first time, we just need our hostile neural network machines, and we need at least a simulation chamber. And then we also need to think about how we're going to get items to here. So definitely like something like an item interface from Applied Energistics would be useful. So connected in, I have an interface. This is going to allow me to take, for example, the prediction matrices, which are required right here. We need to take these and we'll have those stored. So SFM should be able to pull those out. And then we needed to send those to the top of the machine, basically as just a simple item transfer. So it's going to pull out of here. That's going to be its first process. Then the next process is making sure it can stock these in here. So let's go ahead and grab that. Make sure we set that to 64 to keep in stock. And so that is going to handle the craft with a crafting card. And we now have access to that. So that should be able to take the item and then send it over here. So now let's just get started with this. And I'm just going to use, I would say the furnace, but let's just start with a simple program. This is a great place to start. We're going to input from somewhere and we're outputting to somewhere. And that's basically it. So let's go ahead and start up this. And we're going to say input from, and that is going to be this position that we have right underneath us, which is the interface. So input from interface. And then down here, we're going to say this is going to go to the, what's it called again? I think I'm just going to call this sim. So we'll go back in here and output to sim. Perfect. And this will be all sims, by the way, not just this specific sim. Now, as of right now, it can technically send everything. So we may want to look at another example. Well, how do we filter specifically these prediction matrices? I want to make sure that it's the only thing that can actually be pulled out of here or put into this machine. And for this, I just simply take a look at the filtering tag and figure out, well, how can we do certain filterings? Well, it looks like we can get like a fuzzy match and just simply look for something in its name, like ingot, and we can pull it out. So something that is in this thing's name is matrix. I don't think there's anything else in here named matrix. So back in our program, we're going to input matrix from the interface, and then we're going to output matrix to sim. And I am just essentially saying, hey, look for the keyword matrix inside of that string. So now that we're done, that's basically it. It should be running and everything should be working, but we do have to grab our labels. So that's where we shift right click onto the manager, and you can see we have interface and sim, and we just need to tell this what's an interface, and that's an interface. We click on sim and we tell it, hey, that's a sim. So if I right click this and send it to here, that should be working, but it's not, right? Because this actually requires those things to be sent to it from the top side of the machine. And right now it's connected to the bottom. So we're going to have to override that. And that's where I said that furnace is going to come into play. And right here, it's basically the same thing. We have input from, and this one is output to, and then at the end it says top side. So we're essentially telling it that we want it to go to the top side of the machine. And I'm assuming this is just going to work just by simply saying output to top side, just like that. And whenever we hit done, that should hopefully be pulling the matrices out of here, which it's not just yet, and it should be putting them in here. But that's right. Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. The reason it's not is because, well, we don't actually have the data model in here, and it won't allow them to go in there until the data model is in. But notice, once I put that in there, bam, it is instantaneously gone in. that's what we want to see. So now that we have this set up, we also want to pull anything that is here and we want to send it immediately into this. And this is going to be very, very simple, as we just need to basically copy the same thing that we have here, except we'll just change it around to make sure that it knows, hey, from the simulation, you also need to pull products out. So let's go ahead and just take this, and we should be able to select the whole thing. And then we will copy this line to the next line. And this is actually easily, like much better done if you have like a text editor. So you can actually do all of this from within your own text editor. But here we go. So we have the same things that is going on, and we just need to remove the filter. So we're going to input from interface. And in this case, we're not actually inputting from the interface. We're going to input from sim. So anything that is in sim, we want to pull out, and then we can say bottom side, just to make sure we specify that. So we're going to input from sim, and then we need to output, and then to interface. And the side on the interface, it doesn't actually matter. So output to, and then interface. Perfect. Now this should take everything out of sim and should dump it into interface. Like that's exactly what this is saying it should do. So with that, if the simulation has taken place and we give it some power, like a point, which by the way, this can send power, but I do like the idea of managing everything with a point, at least for right now anyways. But once we get this up and running and this starts generating and actually doing its thing, we can accelerate it to get it to actually generate some predictions. And notice that is being taken out, and it should be in our applied logistics system because we haven't done any yet. And there it is. There's the evoker prediction. And there is also the generalized prediction. And you can see this is consuming, and it shouldn't be looping. I don't think it's actually pulling these predictions out, or at least it shouldn't be pulling and sending them back in. No, it looks like it is consuming them. Or is it? Actually, it looks like it is for some reason pulling out of here and sending it back into here. So this might be where we actually need to set a forget in between here. So we'll go back into here and we'll set a forget. So that way it forgets the operation above, and that should stop the predictions from flushing in and out like that. Perfect. So now that this is solved and we make sure we have all of those items being handled with our applied logistics system, let's talk about how we're actually going to handle our loop fabricator. So this is going to be a little bit different. I am going to need a point. So let's grab that just real quick. This does cost a little bit of power, and I'm hoping that I can get by with using an input export card. I'm hoping that I can input from the bottom and also pull from it, but I may not be able to. So let's do advanced AE, and let's just give this a shot. So my goal is to be able to specify specifically which predictions I want to go in here, because unfortunately, if we have a lot of them going on, we are going to need more than one loop fabricator, because this can only handle so many items at a time without any sort of like acceleration mod. So let's dive down underground real quick, slap that onto the bottom. And this is where we need to define our specific predictions that we currently have. For example, this prediction is one that I do want sent into here, and it does work. Okay, perfect. And then you do have to specifically select this for each machine. So you could technically have it go to a bunch of different machines, but you would have to make sure that every time a prediction goes in, you do have the specific thing selected. And in this case, as you can see, it is working. So we can use an import export, and that is fantastic. That's going to make this so much easier. And all of this is just simply attached to the main network. So all of our handling is in here, and it's as simple as literally adding more machines, just simply adding another cable, and then we just need to reselect and make sure we identify our new sims for every new sim that we add. And I really hope that wasn't too complicated. Like, I tried my best to explain the factory manager. If you want to copy and paste this, it's here. I can get rid of all of this stuff. Like, this is absolutely unnecessary. You don't even have to worry about any of this stuff. And it is running every 20 ticks. So essentially this is running every tick. There are ways to make this run faster, but honestly, For this operation, I don't think it's going to need to be. And the benefit is we can go ahead and add another machine. So let me show you how simple it actually is to just add another machine to this setup. So let's say over here, I want to add another simulation chamber. I'm going to add that simulation chamber right here. We just need to get our cables so that way it can connect to the network. And let's make another simulation chamber. This one is going to be handling shulker shells, right? So we need to take that. And like I said, this can send power technically. Let me go ahead and break this real quick. I think I added it too far over. But yes, this can handle power. But like I said, I'm going to do this for power for right now because getting power to be detected by SFM is kind of a pain. For example, like we have to define the connection point. Notice it doesn't connect immediately. So yes, I think it might actually auto connect once we have this all going, but that's a whole other thing for a whole other day. I think it's a little bit too much for today's episode, but just show you how simple this is. We'll take this, we'll grab a point. As you can see, I needed to get these points on autocraft as I've just not done that yet. But yes, we'll get this powered up, and to tell this and get this going, all we've got to do is grab out the shulker out of here, place it in, and by default, it's not going to just start working. No, we have to label it. So let's just make sure we label it as a sim. And as soon as we right click here, it should jump and start working. And that's how simple it is to just add a new machine. Everything is going to be set up, including the pulling out and sending back into the interface. We can do this for any new machine we add. So in my opinion, it makes it very, very flexible. Like it makes expanding your setups very flexible. And then this right here is just a way that I want to handle it. Even though you could do it with the SFM, this is a much simpler way to handle all of this. So I can be very specific on what predictions I want to go where without needing to hand type out anything. Oh, and by the way, I almost forgot, because right now we are technically generating totems of undying. AE2 is not going to like that. So what we could do is we can make ourselves a 256K ME drive. And this thing is going to be pretty darn powerful. This essentially acts like a refined storage drive. And this we should be able to program to specifically hold these things. And I'm hoping it has cell functionality, just like everything else with like overflow destruction cards. But this will hold that many types of items, meaning it should hold 256,000 totems of undying. I mean, let's go ahead and place a drive down here, and I'm going to set this to a priority of 10, making sure it's a higher priority. And then we'll take a cell workbench and let's grab some totems. So we have 26 in here, but let's see, does these work in the cell workbench? Oh my goodness, they do. This allows you to filter specific items inside of your cells. So with this being partitioned, it's always going to keep totems of undying in here. And there is an overflow destruction card that we can also put inside of here. And that will mean whenever this cell is completely filled, oh wait, it looks like this one can't accept it, but in most things you can put an overflow destruction card. That is kind of unfortunate, but honestly, that many totems is kind of a lot. 256,000 totems. I think we'll understand we have a problem if we start going over this, but there is another way we can honestly void things, and that is with a void cell. And a void cell would kind of be your like last, essentially it would be the last thing that you would send anything to. So if there was nowhere else for things to go, you could define the void cell to be like a low priority, or at least in between the priority of everything you're trying to send things to. And it could void it, but it'll only void things that are actually, I guess you would say that it would only void things that are in its partition. So much like any other cell. So you can have like this on this priority. And by the way, the priority inside of the thing goes from the top left to right, then it moves down to the right and keeps going this way. So that is just something to keep in mind. But anyways, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. There's a partition disk that should go in there. It's higher priority. Oh man, that's going to be awesome. And totems, if I pull out all of these totems, which I'm going to have to probably clear my inventory here to be able to do this. But there we go. There's some of that. I want to pull every last one. Perfect. Now we see there is one byte being used because a new one just went in. And whenever I put these in, there we go. We're now seeing that 34 totems are specifically stored inside of this cell. And this is great. So instead of using like functional storage drawers to try and keep everything in stock like that, you can use something like this and it works just the same. Except for some reason we can't have the overflow destruction card. Not sure why we can't put that upgrade in there. But there we go. Look at that. Shulker shells also starting to pile up in our AE system. This is going to be so nice. And that means we can now make even more upgrades. But we still have a couple things we need to do. Like, for example, we need to produce biofuel, dragon's breath, and also ether gas. So now before we can start making anything else, let's also go ahead and get this set up. So we are going to need an extractor, and the extractor needs to go on top of the dragon head. Now I'm still unclear if it needs to be on the top of this. No, it looks like it works just fine. Perfect. And then right here, we can connect this into it, a barrel. Well, I guess, yeah, there it goes. It finally pushed it in there. And just like all of our other setups here, we can lock it and then we add it to the network. And so now we should be able to see these, and this is just going to constantly generate dragon's breath, which is another one of those items that is needed. And with that done, let's also make some biofuel for the with the bioreactor here. So this is a little bit more interesting and is going to require some applied energistics to be able to get this done. But the bioreactor in itself, you basically send it some different materials here, and it's going to generate this as a byproduct. Well, we should be able to get biofuel as a byproduct here. But if I remember correctly, the more you mix the things up that you actually send it, the better. So like if we give it a couple of different types of dye, like it really likes that, and the effectiveness is going to go up. So if we round robin different dye types in here, we should be able to make our effectiveness go significantly higher. I also think it does require water. If I remember correctly, doesn't show that, but yes, water is something that it does need. And as you can see, it's now making biofuel. And I think I'm gonna get a little bit fancy with this. Let's do an export bus, but I'm going to use an extended export bus, which should have more than 9 slots. And we are going to need more than 9 because we need 9 specifically for this. And we also need 1 for sending water. So an extended export bus should get the job done. We want to also make sure this is set to round robin. And then let's do the first thing. Let's make sure we can get water in here. And then let's just do dyes. And then we are going to have to craft those. So we'll definitely put a crafting card in here. And we'll just make sure that it's constantly sending it some dyes. So just like that, that's 9 separate dyes. And you can see the efficiency is as high as it can go. And is it producing anything? Not just yet, because we don't have any power. So we do have to give it some power. And once we give it power, we are now going to have biofuel. And then we just need to say, push the biofuel down into here. And then we can just link this to our regular drawer network. And yeah, this will show up inside of our applied energistic system again. And there we go. And now if I search bio, look at that. Biofuel starting to build up incredibly fast, by the way. Also, without this even being sped up, I mean, every time it does an operation here, which is what, every 5 seconds, it's generating like 3,000 millibuckets. So yeah, 3 buckets worth. So I've now gone up 2 more tiers, and we can now take, for example, this. Let's do base cobble for right now. And we'll take all 3 of these starting at that tier. Let's take this all the way up to tier 6. So yes. Oh, and we also need our obsidian. Almost forgot about that. I mean, now watching this happen, I mean, it looks like they do sort of settle out at a speed. I don't know if they're getting significantly slower per se, but I mean, they do look like they're working just fine. It looks like it's working just fine to me. And yes, there we go. So how much faster is this tier compared to what the other one was? Okay, so now things are really starting to go, because by the way, this also, not only is this increasing the speed, but it also increases how many cobblestone are generated per operation here. So yeah, this is also pretty darn fast. And we still have more to go, right? Because this is only up to 6, but it does go up to 8. So I can't wait to see what this does. Now, I don't know if this is going to be faster than actually tick accelerating it like we did in All the Mods 10, but I mean, this is definitely going to be quick. But you know what? I'm pretty happy with today's episode. I ended up getting all of the machines upgraded down here, at least to the level 6. We still have a bit more to go, as we got to get the wither milked, which is a weird thing to say, but that is still part of the things to do. And I mean, I am pretty proud of utilizing the SFM to make an expandable setup for the hostile neural networks. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. And of course, if you learned something new, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And well, give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And now, of course, I can't forget to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Envy Jake. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and just supporting the content in one of the best ways possible, you absolute boss. And guys, I, of course, look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching.